If people are just living a lifestyle that's out of whack, I'd say, look, we can solve this. I'm also very concerned you're not saving anything for retirement. Like my goal is to look after you financially. We can solve this problem, but let me bring in a good bookkeeper and accountant. We need to get your lifestyle under control. I want you taking money and putting it away once we resolve this so you can retire someday. All right. Hitting the lottery is not a great retirement plan. I know what you're thinking. I've been there too. I don't know where to begin. Eric, I got this client call where I'd love to start doing this. I'd love to do representation. I'd love to solve people's tax problems. I'd love to make that extra 100,000 in 2026. I'd like to build that $1 million practice and sell out for a multiple 3, 4 and pocket 3 million, 4 million on my exit out the door. I want to be able to downsize my practice and run it from anywhere. Everything I've been telling you to do now for years, but you don't know where to begin. Fear not. You can do representation. The roadmap is basically the same. So what I'm going to lay out for you right now is the step-by-step approach. I don't care if you say, Eric, I got a client that's being audited, or I have a client that owes $1 million to the IRS, or I have a client that needs penalty abatement. Doesn't matter. There's a very clear roadmap for this. Thankfully, because the IRS doesn't trust its 60,000 remaining employees to make decisions, their entire process is very linear. It's all set in stone. Once you understand that, there's a very clear process to this. And I'm just going to tell you something, to be honest, because of the way I feel about you. We get these cases here too. I'll get a call, Eric, and basically it's a car crash and a dumpster fire, a train wreck, you name it. And there are times I'm thinking, holy cow, like where do you even begin? But then you go back to the framework. And as long as you follow those steps, the approach is always the same. So what's the first step? Compliance. A taxpayer is required to be in compliance. If it's an audit, the first thing the auditor is going to look at before you make contact with them is this taxpayer in compliance? Now, what is tax compliance? We talked about this before. It means that you have the returns that are due on file with the IRS and that you've made your current year's payments, right? So let's talk about that. You have the returns on file. It has to be at least the last 6 years. That's policy statement 5-133 requires at least the last 6 years. So if you have a client that hasn't filed since 2015, 2005, or 1775, it doesn't matter. The last 6 years that are due. So what are due? When I'm recording this, 25 isn't due yet, but if you wait another week or two, you could get that in. So there's a possibility that you could file 25, 4, 3, 2, 1, 20. So 2020 to 2025 on file with the IRS, your client's in compliance. If they have other returns missing, can they do those? They could if it benefits them, but they don't have to. So why would you file them? When would it benefit them? Well, let's talk about that. If the government has done a substitute for return. So let's say you come to me and Eric, the client hasn't filed since 2015, but there's a balance on 18. It's like 200,000. We don't know what it is. Your client didn't file. I bet it's a substitute for return. And the reason it's so large is the government just takes income numbers and sends a bill, adds on the failure to file penalty, the failure to pay penalty. That's 50%, right? 25% for each of those. And by the time where we are now, that the failure to pay penalty is 0.5% a month for 50 months. That will have completely been assessed. So you're looking at the tax that they've calculated, which is probably overstated without any expenses. You got a 50% penalty for failure to file, failure to pay. Then you got the interest on all of it, right? In that case, that client might want to file the actual 2018 to reduce the liability. But here's the deal. You only do that if it benefits the taxpayer. So what I would tell you in that scenario is, okay, hold your horse. Why don't we get the returns prepared, 20 to 25, and let's see what the balance, what the damage is. Because if the client can full pay, if an offer and compromise or uncollectible is not an option, and the client's going to have to full pay, I'm going to want to file that actual 18 and get that balance corrected and brought down because it'll save my client money. But if the client's going to do an offer and compromise, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't waste the time and the effort. Leave 18 there alone, leave it there. Who cares? We're gonna compromise it anyway. right? No one's going to pay it, so screw it, leave it there. So the point being is what we're going to do depends on where this thing is headed. The point is we need to start with compliance. So whether it's the auditor looking for those missing returns within the last 6 years, if it's that balance due, you need to, the first thing is to get the client into compliance. Your client comes to you, they want to do penalty abatement. We always pull transcripts. And the reason we do that up front, one, is the client in compliance? If they are not in compliance, they're not even eligible. You can't get the first time abatement, all right? If assuming you even qualify, you can't get first time penalty abatement, and reasonable cause is going to go out the window because you're not in compliance. The other thing is we need to look at the reason for transcripts is I need for a penalty abatement, look at the history. Have they gotten other abatements? How many years have they been penalized? Do they have a good history or really bad history? All that's going to come into play there. The point is, regardless of the type of case, we always start with compliance. So when the client first shows up and they're telling you about, then this happened and I saved the queen, but then the world collapsed and I was out in fighting in a war, whatever. They're going to tell you this whole story. And in a way, you got to give them a few minutes because I find that clients want to unburden themselves. It's a little embarrassing to be coming and talking to me about tax problems. So I've just learned from doing this for 26 years, you need to give them that, you need to play psychologist for a little bit. I'm not judging. In fact, I will usually give them a way off. Like, you know what? I'm sorry this happened to you. You've had terrible things happen to you. We may be able to argue for penalty abatement. I need some more information, dates and stuff, but we can deal with this. We can solve this. Let's put this behind you. And then we can look at what do we do to minimize it? Can we compromise it? All of that. It makes them feel better. I've not come in and said, you're a dirtbag. You're stupid. Why did you do that? I find that even if I want to say that, that's not helpful. If people are just living a lifestyle that's out of whack, I say, look, we can solve this. I'm also very concerned. You're not saving anything for retirement. Like my goal is to look after you financially. We can solve this problem, but let me bring in a good bookkeeper and accountant. We need to get your lifestyle under control. I want you taking money and putting it away once we resolve this so you can retire someday. All right. Hitting the lottery is not a great retirement plan. All right. But the point is when they come in, we're going to, do some immediate kind of what do we need to do to stop the bleeding? We're going to get you into compliance. You're not going to be judgmental. Now, once we have that sorted out, we've got the compliance sorted out. If it's an audit, we have to respond to the auditor. If it's a correspondence audit, which more and more of them are now, we have a 30-day deadline. And so in that case, we have got to get the records. I need to review them, and we got to get them out the door. All right. And you do it in a way that you can track it, and please do track it. Make sure the government gets it. If it's a balance due, I need to get the client gathering information. If they're self-employed, we need a profit and loss. I have clients that say, oh, my accountant will work on that usually during the summer. No. I need it now, or I can't help you. We need your income. Your income is going to drive everything, right? If it's penalty abatement, now I need to really dive into the facts. You have documentation. Was it a medical issue? Was there an accident, a fire, flood, hurricane Sandy? I've told this story. One of my clients, their house literally got washed off its foundation. It was on the news, floating in Long Island Sound. Everything was gone. So can we document this, right? So I'm going to start down that path. So then you'll get into each individual what to do. Now, the other thing I wanted you to take away. So first of all, you start with compliance. Then you go through the checklist. Now, if you're a tax rep member, we have checklists for all this stuff, right? We're rolling out software. RepWorks, which will be launching this coming spring with all of our workflows for you. All right. Trying to just make this as easy as possible. The next step, okay, is simply to follow the procedure, get the government what it needs, and begin working toward that solution. There are very few things I have found in IRS representation that you can screw up. Right? Maybe missing a refund deadline would probably be the only thing I can think of. For a refund, you have to file the refund within 3 years of the due date of the return, the claim for refund, within 3 years of the due date of the return, or within 2 years of when the tax was paid. That's a real deadline. And that can't just be overcome. Once that's gone, it's gone. Other than that, though, pretty much everything else can be fixed. If you miss a notice of deficiency to file a tax form, it's not great, but there's audit reconsideration, a doubt as to liability offer. The client could potentially pay it and then file for a refund. So there are many ways usually you can still get it fixed. If you miss a collection due process deadline, okay, the client can't take their collection case to tax court, but there are other opportunities to fix it. We don't need to go to appeals. I can deal directly with collections. Now, I've lost a little bit of my leverage, but we can still get it sorted out. There are very few ways you can really screw things up. So what I would urge you to do, all right, I know this is a kind of a short talk, but what I would urge you to do is understand you can do this. There is nothing to that. It is not rocket science. So if you're a tax rep member, you can use the help desk, of course, and ask us. But more than that, we have all this stuff, all the checklists, all the training in the members area. Now, if you're not a tax rep member, but you think you can get work in this, it might be time for you to join, help us help you market, go get into all of our marketing stuff and start building that practice you've always wanted. All right. But the takeaway, all right, I'm going to quote Henry Ford, despite the fact that he was an anti-Semite, he was a brilliant management. And his quote is very, very on point to this day. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. Meaning, if you want to do this, you can do it. Okay. If you come and hang around with me and Jeff and you shadowed us for a week, here's what I think you'd find. I think we're fun guys to hang around with for the most part. I mean, we get stressed at deadlines too, but you know what I mean. But you would probably discover that we are incredibly, I'm not brilliant, never was, never will be. All right. But this is something I was interested in. This is something I've learned to do. You can too. All right. So I'm going to put the link below. You can go get our mini guide on the workflows on this stuff. You can download that. I think it'll be a huge help to you. If you're a tax rep member, go into the members area, go to the help desk, right? There's no reason you shouldn't take any case. And if it is a criminal case or big litigation case, you can still be involved. We can refer it out to somebody who does that. If it's something in our area that, the firm can do, we could help work with you on it. The point being is there's no reason you can't build a very large practice doing this. You have everything you need, okay? All you have to do is take the first step, right? But download that free mini guide. I think that'll help. And I'll see you inside Tax Rep. Thanks for checking this out, listening in this week, and see you next week on the podcast. Bye-bye.